Where is Daredevil?
A minor. Don't miss the return of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
So what's next?
I feel liberated.
We're gonna take this city back.
Over medicated.
In an all-new season, now streaming only on Disney+.
They're hunting us. It's time we started hunting them.
I can work with that.
This should be tons of fun.
Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
Hey everyone, I'm Erica.
And I'm Elizabeth.
We're sisters, wine lovers, and your hosts for the podcast Spirits Uncorked.
In season 2, we're leaving the haunted waters of Lake Lanier in Georgia and diving into all new spooky stuff. Shadow people?
I've seen them.
Haunted military bases?
I've served on one.
Local restaurants with ghostly reputations?
I work at one.
Okay, if something spooky doesn't happen to you, I worry about you.
The paranormal is my normal.
Plus, we'll sip and chat with horror authors, fascinating guests, and test out some superstitions along the way.
Knock on wood.
So uncork a bottle and pour a glass of the paranormal with us on season 2 of Spirits Uncorked.
Get ready for sips, scares, and sisterly sarcasm.
Love Supernatural Japan? Take it deeper. Join us on Patreon for ad-free episodes, early access, and exclusive shows like Japan Ghost Stories and Spicy Wasabi, plus bonus videos you won't find anywhere else. More stories, more secrets, more of the strange side of Japan. Find the link in the show notes or at supernaturaljapan.com. Welcome back to Supernatural Japan. I'm Kevin O'Shea, and in this episode, we're stepping into one of Tokyo's most enigmatic nighttime districts, Golden Gai. Known for its narrow alleyways, tiny bars, and neon glow, Golden Gai is a place that seems frozen in time, where every corner has a story, and some might just be haunted. To guide us through its history and mysteries, we're joined once again by Riki Ohkanda, a returning guest who previously helped us explore the dark history and hauntings of the Sunshine 60 building. Riki has lived in Japan for nearly 25 years and has been working in the media industry for over 2 decades. You might know her online as Paprika Girl from Instagram and X, where she shares her unique perspective on Japanese culture and folklore. Her extensive experience and deep knowledge of Tokyo's hidden histories make her the perfect guide for a place like Golden Gai, where the line between past and present often feels blurry. In this episode, Riki takes us through Golden Gai's origins, tracing its transformation from a gritty, gray drinking district to a neon-lit tourist destination. She also delves into why so many consider the area haunted, sharing ghostly encounters and local stories that add an eerie layer to this beloved nightlife spot. But this episode goes even deeper, exploring the lingering shadow of Taira no Masakado, a legendary figure whose restless spirit is said to haunt Tokyo. Riki connects this history to her own family, weaving together folklore, personal stories, and the evolving face of the city. Now, whether you're drawn to Tokyo's nightlife, fascinated by hauntings, or simply love a good ghost story, this episode of Supernatural Japan promises to immerse you in a part of the city where history and the supernatural collide. Supernatural Japan listeners, we're back. We're back with a returning guest. I'm so happy to have Riki Ohkanda back on the show. Riki, thank you for coming back on the podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me back.
Yeah, the last conversation we had all about Sunshine 60 was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed that. And in that episode, you mentioned Golden Gai, which is a place I've never been before. One of the things about me is that although I spent many years living in Japan, I almost never went to Tokyo. It might as well have been. You might as well said, "Hey Kevin, are you going to the moon anytime soon?" Being down in Kansai, I think what happened with me was I found myself kind of falling into that salaryman trap almost of working lots, having very little free time. So I never tended to have the time to head to Tokyo. Only been there a handful of times. But yeah, so Riki, Golden Gai, let's just jump into this way. Golden Gai. Of course, I think maybe all I know about it is what I've seen in vlogs, what I've seen in videos. I've seen that, I know that it was kind of a historic drinking street or zone area, and that I know nowadays it's probably inundated with tourists.
That it is.
And so, which many parts of Japan actually, that's what happens when you have a lot of people coming. So, tell me about this Golden Gai place and many aspects. We'll get to the supernatural at some point too, but tell me about it. Paint us a picture, which you are so adept at doing.
Well, cut out what you don't need then in that case, because I think I have quite a lot of backstory for you, if you like it.
Please, would love it.
When I arrived in Japan about 25 years ago, I was still a student, and yet I was making my way into the film industry.
Okay.
And the film industry professionals, that would be where the artists and the actors and the directors and the filmmakers would hang out way back in the day. The reason for this is it goes back quite a long time, but Golden Gai itself really kind of only picked up post-war.
Okay.
So after the 1950s, it was a black market, and it was very much controlled by what we would now call Yakuza.
Oh, okay.
So the black market didn't just deal in goods, it also dealt in, prostitution. It was called the Aosen, right? So the blue line. Right. So any one of the blue line areas of Tokyo, which in any other place, anywhere which is post-war is going to have something like that, you'll have those areas where you'll go, just to get a little bit of kicks. And usually on the first floor, you'll have drinking bars and restaurants.
Okay.
And then on the second floor, they would have what would be called chonnoma. And it's just a little room where a lady and a gentleman would disappear for a little while, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And because these areas were run, of course, this was post-war and run by Yakuza, and it was an unfortunate, an area of business to get into. Unfortunately, you have a lot of sad stories in there, right? People who've lost their families and lost their homes, people who were forced into doing a certain kind of job that they wouldn't have chosen for themselves if they had any choice.
Yeah.
People who, were in debt. People who, one thing led to another, and then they end up losing their lives. People who were born there and raised there. So the whole area from the beginning was kind of built up on sadness and sorrow. Little by little, of course, this as the rest of the country began to pick up in terms of economics, and people started to move out and create their homes and create their lives, they're those people who were never able to get out of that spiral, So after a while, what kind of people congregate in those kinds of drinking holes is not just those who are looking for certain services, but people who don't have enough money to buy anything more expensive. And very often throughout history, we've had artists go there, writers go there.
Oh, okay.
People who are musicians, people who were looking to make it big.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's where you have that kind of mixture of sadness and alcoholism and artistry and this beautiful mesh of humanity that really grows up in that kind of an area. People who would record these kinds of stories, this would be the beginnings of scripts and books and films which dealt with the Yakuza and dealt with the sad stories of prostitution, things like that. This kind of thing would make its way into the mainstream media through that kind of an environment. And as a result, you would find that actors and directors, even after making it somewhat big or having one hit or something, would still go and hang out in those same areas where they picked up their first ideas, right?
Well, that makes sense.
So,
I suppose, like, when you think of artists and looking for inspiration, when they talk about songwriters, I mean, how can you write about sadness and heartache when you're happily married and you've got a great family and lots of joy surrounding you? How can you write about the seedy underbelly of the world or of life when you are completely detached from it and have no connection, right? You want to be in the weeds to get the inspiration and see how that half lives, right?
yeah. Now, the whole entire industry, even now, I mean, it's not a happy-go-lucky industry, and everybody knows that. Britney Spears, is built on sadness.
True.
Even the pop and sparkles that we understand, it comes from what we would call we call them mizu shobai. And mizu shobai means the selling of water. In other words, it means selling something that isn't necessary. Anybody can get water anywhere. You can turn on the tap and get water. But to sell water, the mizu shobai, means that you're selling it as if it's some kind of a special tonic that's going to be something more special than what you have at home, right? So any sort of the arts, anything that works with alcohol, anything that works with the theater, and then of course goes to prostitution, all of these things that you don't need are all called mizu shobai. Right? Even now, it's called that now. So I'm giving you all this background because Golden Gai, of course, since you have that kind of a sadness and desperation and hopes and dreams that sometimes come true but mostly aren't because you know how your life is, that's a wonderful place, in a way, to search for ghosts.
Yeah, true,
Right?
true.
It gets that supernatural element because
Well, when you look at the concept of yurei, right? Or when you look at onryo, even, the kind of more intense and more aggressive things. I mean, these are spirits that are created through someone having great amounts of pain in life and suddenly something being taken away from them, and they can't escape or don't have a happy place to go, even in the afterlife. So they linger, right? And it sounds like that would be a good place to linger.
Oh, well, I mean, one of the things I remember when I was, some 21 or 22, I was being brought over to those areas, not for the second floor, of course, which has already been dissipated during the 1970s, but at the first floor, that's where all the staff would go to drink. And they would tell the stories about so and so place around the corner where someone had been attacked by Yakuza and gotten, let's see, unalived.
Okay, unalived. Yeah.
Unalived. I'll use that word just in case.
Yeah.
YouTube term.
Yeah.
But then they'll tell stories about, you'll meet, or there'll be a mama, for example, a mama or a master, which will own one of these locations, will be pouring the drinks. Not be a particularly good bartender one way or the other, but they'll have stories and they'll tell you what happened 3 doors down. They'll tell you what happened so and so, and they all had their own drinks of their own. They'll have their own stories about how they had dreams once of making it big, and they had that one hit record one time when they were 20, and now they're in their 60s, and they're saying, "Oh, it's going to happen again. I'm going to get out there again." I'm sure you are. But,
Yeah.
you had all those friends who would go to these particular places and support these the owners of these shops, right? All these great stories. I have to say that, of course, this was something 20 years ago, and it's no longer that kind of place anymore, right? Back then, it was dark and it was shady. It was very gritty in a way. Lots of those street lamps were all very dark, and when you enter there was a path which you go from Shinjuku, the main street of Shinjuku, through this little wooded area, and the wooded area wouldn't be lit up 20 years ago. There was no lights, so make of that what you will. But as you enter in there, it's quite scary, as a matter of fact. You go in there and you get to the little corner where all these little streets intersect, and it's still dark there at the time it was, and then you know which street to go to, the first or second or the third, and you turn right, And over to the right, there'll be all these little dive bars here and there. But most of them would be quite dark from the outside. You wouldn't really know what you're getting into unless you knew where you wanted to go.
Okay, yeah.
And that was part of it. It was very secretive and beautiful as a result of that, right? But now, it's made for foreigners. It's made for tourists. So everything is brightly lit up and sparkly and glittery, and there are big, bright signs in front of everything. And the menus are all in English out in front, even before you go into any of these shops. And you'll see there's neon everywhere. And now what used to be these dark, beautiful noreno fabric are now these clear vinyl sheets where you can see what's inside of each one of the shops. And we don't go there anymore. We in the film industry, no one goes there anymore.
Well, I was gonna say, like, before, when I reached out to you and said, "Hey, let's do this episode," doing some very cursory research, and just watching a few videos on YouTube, there are just so many YouTube shorts, the reels that pop up. And I saw a few where it's just people like, when you're in Japan, when you're in Tokyo, you need to go to Golden Gai. And then they're just like walking down, it's some person walking down the lane, and every doorway, one reel, every doorway they look into, I see just foreigners, they're tourists. So it's a very different, not as cool as it once was, I suppose.
No, it's not. I mean, admittedly, it was scary in a way, because you didn't know where you were going. And there was the Yakuza problem. And I mean, I've never actually encountered or seen anything dangerous in that area. But that said, I mean, everyone knew that, it was potentially, if you get onto the wrong side with the wrong people, then you would find yourself down the wrong alley, right? And everyone knew that. So they don't have that anymore. And I guess in a way it's safer, which is nice. Now you have pickpockets, perhaps, or something like that level. But I mean, it's not like it used to be, no.
Yeah, I suppose when you have the kind of, in any place where there's a kind of gentrification that happens, right? And I can remember, I can't speak to what it's like in Tokyo or Golden Gai, but I can compare it to maybe back in the day when I used to live in Korea. I lived in Seoul like 25 years ago, and I lived in this bedroom community outside of Seoul, and every once in a while we'd head into Seoul and we'd go to a place called Itaewon. And Itaewon, back in the day when I was there was still this big U.S. Army base right there called Yongsan Main Post. They were just, this was an area that catered to all those GIs post-Korean War to early 2000s, and you would find there were places that had really unfortunate names, but these are the names. There was Hooker Hill. And Hooker Hill was the place that had, very similar to what you're explaining. They had those 2-floor little buildings, and they had all the shops. On the first floor was a mama-san and people drinking, and then the second floor is where you would go with someone to do extracurricular activities for extra fees. And then there were, there was just really dodgy places, and there were bars that had lots of Russian mafia. There were the Korean mafia, and there was all kinds of, you'd see like street fights and brawls and American soldiers getting into trouble with like Korean mafia guys, and it was wild. And now, we heard that unfortunate news a few years ago with the Halloween crush that happened. With crowds of people, unfortunately gathered. But the Itaewon of now is completely different. The U.S. Army base was closed and left 15 years ago. They moved most of the soldiers to another place, and they've completely cleaned it up and gentrified it. And all of those from what I hear, it's actually quite trendy and fashionable. It's just a completely different world, and I'm assuming my experiences there, and I had some pretty scary ones. I mean, me and my friends were actually literally chased out of bars by people a few times who mistook us for GIs. There were some gangsters one time that chased us out of a bar, and I was pretty fast then. I could run. But again, I guess from what I see now, Golden Gai is no longer what it once was. So, but you've got some tales, some stories I hear.
Well, I have to tell you,
things you've heard.
Oh yes, there's always stories. Oh goodness, there were things in the 1970s. That's like I mentioned, though. It's mostly those sad tales, I suppose. What I do want to point out, though, is there is one shop which is in Golden Gai now, and it's actually run by someone younger who's in his 30s.
Okay.
But he was born and raised in Shinjuku. And so he's not entirely an outdoorser, but he only goes by the handle name Indie, like Indie Jones.
Okay, yeah.
He's a Japanese YouTuber and writer, and he has a bar which is in Golden Gai. I'm trying to remember. Oh yes, and the name of the bar is Bar Baron, so it's Baron.
Okay.
And why I'm mentioning this is because he published a number of books about sad tales and spooky tales from
really?
Golden Gai.
Oh, wow.
And it's called Golden Gai no Akumu, so the bad dream of Golden Gai. I would like to recommend that one because he goes into details about what kind of gangsters used to prowl the place and what kind of tales were especially common.
Okay.
So, I would recommend reading that one and going through that. And he has a whole bunch of YouTube videos about these individual cases and things like that.
Oh, okay.
So look up indie. So it's Japanese, in katakana, be indie.
Okay.
But if you put an indie Golden Gai, I think it should pop up. But he goes into those real tight details about it, and he's not superficial.
Okay.
So since he's a local, and since he actually runs a shop there, and he's published a number of books which are well researched, he's not just one of those content creators for the sake of oogly booglies. He knows what he's doing. So I would definitely like to recommend that gentleman.
Okay. I need to add that. I need to add that to the reading list that's growing and growing. I need to. There's so many. When you start cracking into the world, obviously of reading what Japanese creators are making and Japanese writers, it's not just the top 10 lists that you see when you Google something in English. Yeah.
There's a whole nother world of language beyond there. Things that are happening.
Yeah. Well, that's even like with recently. I mean, I've, with this podcast, I'm trying not to do. Of course, there's a low hanging fruit. There's certain thing I just need to do because
Sunshine 60. Right?
Sunshine 60. That's that low hanging fruit. But there are so many incredible things that most people, Japanese or English speakers, wouldn't know about. And recently, a couple of weeks ago, I came across a couple of Japanese kind of paranormal sites, and that are compiled and constantly updated by Japanese paranormal investigators and enthusiasts. And it's just been an incredible treasure trove of stuff. It's been amazing. I kind of don't know what direction to go in. I'm just like, oh, there's so much stuff here, which is fantastic.
It just by giving you a little bitty hint, but please, I would like you to look up the Tokyo Chuo line.
The Tokyo Chuo line. Okay.
Yeah. You start there. I'm not going to say anything else until you decide that you want to hear something else. I'm not going to say anything else. But there's a plenty of creepies on that one.
Okay, now are those creepies of the paranormal variety or of the salaryman variety? Okay.
A little bit of both. There's lots of creepies of the creepy BB variety.
Yeah.
Like this.
Okay. Wow. Okay. The Tokyo Chuo line. I will start to dig into that. So
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, but I mean, as far as like, Golden Gai, when you think back to the stories from the 70s or the 80s, obviously it's a place where there's probably a great deal of sadness, right? And people who are in situations, but are there any, I don't know, for the listeners out there that kind of, I don't know, again, what are, are you familiar of those with some tales or some, yeah.
Well, I know that it's not the first street, but it's the third street. So there are 4 or 5 streets that go into the back.
Okay.
And it's kind of like these rows that are based on what used to be row houses, because there was another area of Shinjuku where most of the nomiya most of the drinking holes used to be.
Okay.
And it was moved because of the GHQ things happened when they came in and kind of reorganized Tokyo somewhat.
Okay.
THQ came in and they moved them all into what were at the time standardized sized row houses that had been chopped up into drinking holes. And everyone kind of moved in there and they reorganized themselves.
So these are kind of those typical, the Showa era kind of just
shanties.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you see those around everywhere. I mean, there's less and less of them now, but in a lot of places where I've stayed in Osaka, I see a lot of those. I can just picture the long kind of single floor, probably two floor apartment buildings that just look like absolute fire traps.
Yes. Oh,
and they absolutely are often.
Even now, Golden Gai is a big old fire trap. I mean,
yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen at any moment. But yes, go at your own risk.
Okay.
But so those are all chopped up into the little nomiya gai. But if you look at the standardized sizes, if you go into the second or the third rows, the place where most of the stuff happens is in the third row. So 1, 2, if you enter into Golden Gai, it's on a corner, and then you have the first street, which is all lit up, all bright and flashy and foreign. Mm-hmm. And then you can keep on going straight, and then you can either turn left, or you could always turn, if there's only right to turn. The first street after that, or the second street. So it's the second or third street. And the second street for the first three shops over there, or there's a little alleyway that kind of connects the second and third streets right in there. Mm-hmm. Now, those are the places which everyone knows is haunted.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. But there are plenty of them, and everyone will have a story about the, 2 shops over, this guy used to own so-and-so place. But the ones that are, even for filming crews, we know we don't go over there kind of area. It's between the second and third street. It's this kind of little alley over there. And the third street in general is a big no-no place.
Okay.
And the reason for that is just at twilight or really early in the morning when things are starting to cool down. I'm thinking about between 3 and 6 a.m. Just as the sun's starting to come up and the television crews come in there to film or not film or whatever we're doing over there. Yeah. We're told not to go over there because, number one, you're going to encounter something really creepy. There's usually this kind of black-eyed child, which is standing right in the middle of that little alleyway over there.
Okay.
Not a real child, but someone who's no longer in this world, which everyone knows about this, and you're just not allowed to go there. And this third street over there, that's where, it's said that if you go through that third street over there between the hours of 3 and 6 a.m., you're going to get one of those ghosts that jump onto your back and hold onto your shoulders.
Okay.
And you can't see it, but it feels like you have really stiff shoulders for no particular reason. And then it'll just continue with you all day.
Oh, really?
And so if you're filming over there in Golden Gai and someone just rubs what will happen often is they'll just rub their shoulders to the side. And then if someone comes up to you and be like, wait a minute, did you go to the third street? And if you'll say yes, then everyone will throw salt on him. Because it's considered that salt will release whatever's on his back from holding on.
Well, salt is a universal kind of protector, a protective methodology of especially against the supernatural.
Oh, yes. It's international kind of thing.
Wow.
But they will throw salt on you. It's been a thing. So we'd be filming over there and someone would be like this, and then you'll take this lunch salt and throw it on your friend. Wow.
So for those of you listening, if this is the first episode for you, Riki works in the TV and film industry in Japan and has for many years. So would you describe, and I'm going to probably assume how you'd answer this, but are the folks who work in the TV and film industry pretty superstitious people?
I would say to a certain extent, yes. But
at least this sounds like it in this case. Yeah. Maybe it's just the location.
I think it's the location, but I have to tell you that in general, even you don't think of, I don't know what your impression is of Japanese people in general, but I would say that yes, they are superstitious.
Absolutely. Yes. Japanese people are incredibly superstitious. That's my opinion. And more so than people from many cultures. And I think in general, the beliefs that Japanese people have about the afterlife and about, people dying and about spirits and ghosts and this and that it's very strong. It's very much a big part of the social fabric I mean, I was just recently I was interviewed on a podcast out of the UK called Mysteries and Monsters, and I was chatting with the host Paul about that, how he's a supernatural enthusiast as well, like me. And when we were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe, as a Canadian or an American or a Brit, if we were talking about this, people would think we're weird. We're that weird person you want to maybe take a step away from. But within North American culture and a lot of Western culture, with the advent in the 2000s of lots and lots of ghost hunting shows, and there seems to be the whole genre of paranormal podcasting has become very, very big. It's become somewhat more normalized because of media and content creation. But in Japan, it's very deep into like the culture and the society. It's not just whack jobs who think this. It's like there's
There's certain things I can't do. Like, I know my Japanese husband, he's a scientist, so we're not talking about someone who's off the wall or anything like that. But he won't allow me to get those little omamori, little protective amulets.
Okay, yeah.
He won't let me bring those home. And he won't let me bring, it depends on what it is, where I went to. He always asks me where I go to, because the spirits would be in conflict with whatever spirits we have in our house.
Announcing GoblinCon UFO and Paranormal Expo 2026, featuring over 50 vendors, 2 full days of speakers, educational workshops, and intriguing panels. Enjoy fun for the whole family with a puppet show, Little Goblin Fun Zone, arcade games, and more. So join us August 22nd and 23rd at the Bruce Convention Center in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. General admission is $10. Children 12 and under are free. $150 VIP packages include fun for the whole weekend. For more information, visit GoblinConKY.com.
If you're enjoying the podcast you're listening to right now, and you've got a love of the paranormal, then I'm Rob Kirkup, and I think you might enjoy my show, How Haunted. Every other Friday, I take you to some of the most haunted locations across the UK, with the occasional trip overseas, as we explore the dark history behind each place, and the terrifying ghost stories said to haunt them. Across the year, there are seasonal specials too, including Christmas episodes packed with real listener ghost stories. And every October, the podcast goes weekly, a themed month building towards a big Halloween spooktacular. You'll also join me on real paranormal investigations, ghost hunts in seriously unsettling locations, with audio from the night so you can hear what happens as it happens. So if you're ready for creepy locations, grim history, and stories that follow you long after the lights go out, search How Haunted wherever you get your podcasts, and join me as together we ask, how haunted?
So his family goes way back. He's the family from Taira no Masakado, which you mentioned a little bit earlier.
This was in the episode, the most recent episode I did with Philip Jackson, where we were I was asking him about his bucket list of sites he would like to go to, and I have to admit I'd never heard of this individual who was a samurai. And Philip said he would like to come to Tokyo to find out to the grave, I think, or the site, the burial site. Hey, let's jump into that. Yeah, I think you've got a connection. I think Philip would really like to hear this.
Let's make it really short then. But okay, so Japan has 3 onryo, which means the great vengeful spirits. We have, I think it's Shotoku Tenno, and then we have Sugiwara no Michizane, who's so we have an emperor, we have a philosopher, or maybe it was a teacher of some sort, great teacher. And then we have the Japanese version of Braveheart. And so Taira no Masakado was a contemporary of William Wallace, by the way.
Okay.
And he followed the same exact path. So we had a country bumpkin lord who was sent down to get his education down in the capital, which is in Kyoto. So he got a good education. He was sent back to his hometown way over in the sticks. And over there, his relatives, who were also lords, were overly taxing the people. He didn't like that too much. And then for a while, using the knowledge that he gained in Kyoto, he legally pursued action against those who were oppressing the people. And he was, of course, his people were out in the east, so quite far away from Kyoto. But since he kept on fighting against these taxes and saying, we're not going to pay any more of these ridiculous taxes, they decided after a while that, we don't like this guy very much. He is trying to usurp authority from Kyoto, and so therefore we will go and cut off his head. And that's what they did. They sent one of his cousins out there who chopped off his head. They brought the head back to Kyoto. They put it on a pike, as was popular back in the day. And one day the head decided that it didn't like to be on the pike, and it flew up and suddenly zoomed way fast like a Shinkansen all the way out.
Okay.
And went plop in this little bitty village, fishing village, which eventually would turn into Edo.
Okay.
And this village, when the head plopped down, it was kind of gross, so everybody covered it up with lots of mud and stuff and kind of buried it. But it turned out, as the town around it began to grow, and eventually, a few hundred years later became Edo, still nobody wanted to touch that particular piece of land. And so now and then you'd have some power, some political power come in and try to be like, well, that's nonsense. We're going to move this hill this head hill. They call it the Kubizuka. We're going to move the head hill elsewhere or just flatten it and build over it. And every time they tried to do this, you'd have either earthquakes, or you would have great storms, or you'd have the shovel flip over like happened to the GHQ when they came by and tried to do the same thing. All sorts of mishaps every time someone tried to move this particular hill. So what they did is they built the Kanda Myojin, which is a big shrine nearby it, in order to appease that head. And they still, even to this day, refuse to build there. So it's one of the most expensive plots of land in all of Japan. It's right in the middle of the financial center. And yet it's just a little bitty kind of a park, which is just kind of walled off and not decorated or anything like that. It's just like, don't go there kind of atmosphere that goes to it. And if you go there early in the mornings, you'll find that these heads of banks and all sorts of strong financial institutions will go there in the mornings and put some sort of a cup of sake over there, or some like good biscuit over there, or some kind of a trinket, or to pay their respects to Masakado, just in case he decides to take his vengeance out on him or his company. So he's considered the patron saint of Tokyo, because at least he tried to fight for the East. He lost, but at least he tried to fight for the East, and eventually it's through him, they think, that eventually they brought the capital to the East, where the head is. And so he won in the end, 1,000 years later.
Wow. Quite the tale. And you said that you have a family connection. Your husband has a family connection.
Yes.
The same lineage.
Yes. Taira no Soma is his lineage. And even though it was 1,000 years ago, and thus he must have a whole bunch of descendants, apparently he goes through a certain family line. And so every 2 years, the family head of his family, there's a couple which are out in Fukushima, everyone gets together and they have to go to Kanda Myojin and participate in this special kind of an appeasement ceremony, which they go over there. They wear these special kind of hanten over there, and they get like purified and stuff by the Shinto priest. But it's quite something to see. And that's one of the reasons, for example, he won't go to. So Masakado's head was apparently chopped off by the dude who eventually is connected to Narita, the family of Narita. So if you go to the Narita, they have anything which is connected with Narita, my husband, we can't go to. So he can't go to any shrine of Narita. He can't go to and bring home any trinkets from Narita or anything which is somehow vaguely connected to it, because the family is at odds because Narita chopped off Masakado's head.
Wow.
So
1,000 years later.
Oh yes, yes. But 1,000 years later, and they're quite very serious about it. It's like what do? Who's connected to who, and who's related to what family, and can you or can you not be
And you see,
friends?
there you go, right? And if people are wondering, like, are Japanese people superstitious? It's like, wow, yeah. I mean, and extremely, extremely.
Oh yeah.
And that's fascinating. Wow, that's so neat. Wow. Well, these are some
A lot of
great
stories.
great tales. And Philip, there you go. That's for you. And I know that I've got some homework to do here. I'm holding up a little sticky note,
Yeah.
a little post-it that says Tokyo Chuo Line ? And I drew a little ghost. I'm gonna have to do some research now on this. And
You're gonna have fun with that.
oh, nice. Okay. And those are just the chikan. The train gropers. Well, I'm sure those are. Yeah. Wow. Well, Riki, thank you for coming back on Supernatural Japan. I really appreciate you having you back on the podcast again.
I hope to meet you in person one day. We can talk about ghosties.
I
That'd be
know.
fun.
I know. And that's actually one more thing I wanted to mention. That's, I don't know if you saw, and one of the things that I love about hearing these conversations is, one of the, I guess in the initial days of doing this podcast and, doing the research, there's that low hanging fruit, a lot of that, so to speak. And when I posted my episode a few weeks ago about the Jiko Buken, what was really fascinating about that was quite a few people reached out to me privately on various social media platforms and said, I've got a story for you. These were people that I reached out to, and I'm like, could you please tell me your story? And then a lot of, not everyone wants to be on a podcast, of course, not everyone wants themselves, their name to be out there, their face to be out there, or anything like that, right? Even locations. Excuse me. So a few people I just reached out to, and I said, hey, would I be able to talk to you? Would you be able to interview you? And I don't need to know your name. I don't need to know any details. I just want to hear your story. And since then I've actually sat down, on Zoom like this and chatted with a few people, and wow, some incredible stories, incredible stories. I was just like, I need to write this. Like this is like book material. This is fantastic. So, for those of you out there listening, I'm looking for primary research here. So I want to talk to people, or at least correspond through email, and different social media. It doesn't have to be an interview per se, on Zoom. It would be great though. Because I get more info, more stories. But I just really want to start reaching out to people and getting primary research, actually speaking to people who've had experiences. And I think I'm going to kind of let this project kind of shape itself depending on who I talk to and what I get. But it's been pretty neat so far, pretty exciting. Yeah. Well, everyone, if you want to follow Riki, and you need to go to X and Instagram and follow her at Paprika Girl. I'll put the links in the show notes, and you can see, Riki, you've got a great way of showcasing Japanese culture and society and making it really accessible and fun and cool. And I really appreciate that. So, and I really appreciate you being here again as I say goodbye for the second time.
Well, let's talk again. There's lots of ghosties to explore from now on, too.
Absolutely. There you go, folks. Riki will be back. As we wrap up our journey through Golden Gai, it's clear that this tiny labyrinth of bars and alleys holds more than just neon lights and late-night drinks. From its gritty beginnings to its modern tourist transformation, the district carries echoes of the past and stories that blur the line between history and the supernatural. A huge thanks to Riki Ohkanda for sharing the tale of Taira no Masakado. Also, a big thank you to her for sharing her insights and personal connections and spine-tingling tales, helping us see Golden Gai not just as a nightlife destination, but a place where Tokyo's spirits linger in the shadows. Now, whether you wander its alleys in person or explore it through stories like these, Golden Gai reminds us that even the busiest city streets can hold secrets that are centuries old. And sometimes still reach out from beyond the grave. And of course, folks, you can find Riki on X at Paprika Girl and Instagram at Paprika Girl. Links will be in the show notes. Thanks for listening to Supernatural Japan. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like to help our show grow, please leave a review and a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, and a 5-star rating and a comment on Spotify or wherever else you listen to us. It really does make a difference. And to see what Golden Gai looks like, both past and present, follow us on Instagram at Supernatural Japan, as well as our Facebook group. The links are in the show notes and over at supernaturaljapan.com. I also want to let you know that I've started a Supernatural Japan writing project that I hope will turn into a book at some point. I'm collecting primary research through interviews, emails, and more from people who have had strange, supernatural, and unexplainable experiences in Japan. So I've already talked to a few people who've had some incredible stories to share with me. And if you have a story to share, please DM me on any social media platform I use, such as Instagram, X, Blue Sky, or Facebook, or reach out to me via the contact form at supernaturaljapan.com or by email at supernaturaljapan@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing you folks. Now, I really want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to download and listen to the show. If it wasn't for you guys, I would be making the podcast. And Supernatural Japan listeners, if you ever find yourself drinking late at night or early in the morning in Golden Gai, just remember, you might not just be drinking with the living, but also with the spirits of those who once sat in the seat next to you.
Looking for a hauntingly unique podcast this spooky season? Listen to I Talk to Ghosts for chilling ghost stories, genuine in-studio medium readings, and a virtual seance table where the spirits have an opportunity to speak directly to you. Find I Talk to Ghosts on all the fine podcast apps, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Happy haunting.